His steps fell soundlessly over the ground, for he had mastered the art of prowling through the forest. His eyes drifted back and forth, his gaze sharp for any motion around him. The blackness of night had already blanketed the skies over the northern isles, but he had adopted the darkness as his ally, as his master had well taught him. A gust of wind caused a shiver to trail across his pale skin, and the crystal dangling from his ear to sway and bump against his cheek. Passing like a shadow between the trees, he crept closer to the gypsy camp until he was at the edge of the clearing, and in a voice as smooth and strong as a roll of thunder, he called out her name. It fell softer than a whisper of the wind, but her hearing was sharp, and she had been lying awake in her open tent waiting to hear from him. And at the sound of the Dark Lord's most favored servant, she sprang up quietly and emerged from the tent. His silhouette lingered along the tree line, and she saw the glisten of his crystal earring reflecting the moonlight. Head lowered and conflicted, she approached him, and standing before him, cowering in his shadow, she muttered, "The girl is here. Take her and go," as she motioned to a tent on the far side of the camp, where Rachel was sleeping in blissful ignorance of what was transpiring beyond. Gira had heard the rumble of laughter in his chest, but he suppressed it. Pushing past her, he swept across the clearing and ripped apart the curtain doors of the tent. Rachel was lost in slumber, but he took no chances, turning back to Gira and holding out his hand to her. "Do you have it?" "Here, sir," she said, retrieving a small bottle from the pocket of her apron. The precious liquid inside was a special brew of water and the mushrooms pried from the trunks of the forest pines, the same mushrooms she had harvested that day when the travelers arrived. And now she handed it to the man who wielded the authority matched only by the Dark Lord himself. Snatching up the bottle, he stooped into the tent and knelt beside Rachel, whose chest rose and fell softly with gentle breaths. And with the stealth of a fox, he rested his hand on her chin and slowly parted her lips with his thumb. In the other hand, he flicked away the cork of the bottle and lowered it to her lips, and within a moment, the bottle was empty, and with a grin, he tossed the bottle aside and reached both of his powerful arms beneath her, lifting her up from where she slept and emerging from the tent. She did not move, and hardly seemed to breathe, but she was alive, and she would pose no threat to him for many hours, while the mushroom brew kept her under a drowsy spell. And as he lifted her into his arms, floods of memories came rushing back as he gazed down at her face. Feelings he had not known for years came rushing back all at once, like precious blood returning to a strangled limb. He breathed it in, basked in it, and his heart writhed with sadness. But he put these strange feelings aside, for he knew the task he had traveled here to do, and without another word to the gypsy girl, he fled into the forest, cradling Rachel's limp body in his tender grasp. And with that, Rachel vanished into the dense expanse of Exile Forest, into the pitch blackness of midnight.